Yeah, on the conversation. The rate of unemployment in this country, when you look at the statistics, is quite worrisome. And I've seen many people question why they wasted a certain number of years in the four walls of the university waiting to acquire degrees. And at the end of the day, there are no jobs anywhere for them to earn a decent kind of living or wage. So the question is it that our educational system is faulty? Or is it that the policies of government or the curriculum of our universities is not fitting into the labor demands of today? These are some of the questions we intend to put to our guests to discuss degrees with no jobs, courses, and solutions. And we have right here in the studio with us uh, Prince Dapo Adelegan, former president, Nigeria British Chamber of Commerce. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you very much, as usual.
All right. Before my first question, fortunately enough, you're also a politician, and we saw Mr. President sign the 2026 Electoral Act into law yesterday at about 5 p.m. with some members of the National Assembly. Does that give you hope that we are going to have a better election come 2027?
Thank you very much. Well, there's really nothing to say. Once the president has signed, it has become law, and it has gone through all the labyrinth of public scrutiny, debates in the Senate and executive consideration. So I think it's a good thing that's been signed. So all that talk can be put to rest. We can only pray for better elections. No election is perfect. And for a society like ours, you will know that there will be contentions, there will be all kinds of views. But at the end of the day, I think by the provisions of the Senate for INEC's preparations and the utterances of the new INEC chairman and the president's commitment to ensure a seamless and transparent election, I think we can bank on that.
Okay, talking about transparent election, you are very technology savvy. And do you think we are right for electronic transmission of results as being agitated by some civil society organizations, looking at the quality of network that we have in the country?
Well, when you look at our network challenges and the logistics problem of a country like Nigeria, we're not ready. That is the truth. It's desirable. Maybe in a couple of years' time with improved electricity, because inefficient electricity also constrain the performance of network systems across the country. And the challenge that can come from such happenings and contentious results, I think it's safer to remain with the system that we've used in the past, maybe with more guardrails and more vigilance by civil society and the media and the election observers, and then we can hope for the best.
Okay, so back to the business of why you are here today.
Oh, thank God.
I'm just trying to analyze the situation that we find ourselves in this country. How well does it sound, having struggled and, of course, strive to acquire degrees for a number of years in the universities or polytechnic or colleges of education? And, strike is there, improper funding is there. And at the end of the day, even when you have those degrees, there are no jobs in sight and you're at home. Your parents who are expecting that they have invested in you and hoping to recoup their investment are now the ones still feeding you. You have degrees, but there is no job anywhere.
I think we need to step back a bit and understand the realities of life in the 21st century. One of the problems of the country is that we do not contextualize issues. The 21st century, by definition, is going to be a job-unfriendly century.
Job-unfriendly.
Simply because of technology. It is the age of the robots.
Okay.
The role of man as a means of production is not going to be like the 20th century. It's diminished. The job of 50 people is performed by one telephone, one computer. So in reality, it is not necessarily the fault of government or the fault of our universities, but primarily the challenge of technology. A robotic century is a century where technology would drive process more than humans. A couple of years ago, Coca-Cola, I think it was Toyota, that closed about 6 of its plants and sacked almost about 3,000 workers and replaced them with robots. So today, cars are manufactured by robots, not by humans. In a factory, you probably have 2 or 3 human beings handling the controls. The rest are robots, because robots don't go on leave, they don't go on sick leave, they don't go bury their parents, and they're precise. Human beings, by their very nature, are challenged by a lot of emotional issues that can affect production. So today, what we have not done as a country is that we have not retooled our universities to produce more of technical focused people. We're still having degrees in humanities, even more than sciences. So what the country needs to do is to produce more STEM focused graduates, fit for purpose graduates. The oil industry in Nigeria, for example, imports underwater welders from Malaysia. I mean, there is no university in Nigeria, maybe the new University of Technology in Niger Delta will offer it, that offers such training. So the point is, the lack of job is not necessarily due to inefficient government policy. It may be due to the fact that the education system has not been retooled to fit with the 21st century demands, but the impact of technology on all the process of work has been the one that has diminished the need for humans. And so in this century is going to be more of customers, not jobs. Wow. The issue of jobs will be a bit of challenge as we go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Even though you have identified the fact that we need to retool our educational system to fit into what is in demand for today and the future, what about the quality of those that we are even producing? A lawyer just left here now, and he said he had 6 lawyers in his chambers, and it's only one of them that can speak correct English, and they all passed through the law school, and they passed.
Well, that's a systemic problem. We've complained about the quality of undergraduate training for a very long time. But when you look, who are the trainers? The teachers. They also are demotivated. I mean, it's a scandal to have lecturers carrying placards for increase in salary. So you can see that the years of neglect, years of inadequate funding and support and motivation for our teachers is now affecting the outputs in the university. But however that may be, in the 21st century, we need more technical universities than universities humanitarian. We need more STEM-focused science, technology, engineering, mathematics related courses than English and sociology, because that is the future. Okay, so South Korea, for example, spends 70% of its education budget on technical vocational education. So they give us Samsung, they give us Hyundai, they give us almost 6-7 major brands globally because of that focus. So if the government would review a holistic education policy to focus more on science and engineering and technology, then we may have graduates that are in line with the new age of the robots, that who are AI compliant, who can do coding. These are the issues for the 21st century. And any society that's not aligned will be behind.
Okay, when you look at the educational policy of this government, as well as our investment in the technology sector, do you see us already positioning ourselves for the future of technology, so that at the end of the day, graduates and the country will not lag behind? You cited the example of South Korea now and some other developed countries. Are we on the right path to this direction?
Well, first is that the 4-5% allocation to education is grossly inadequate. I mean, for any country that is aspiring to be a leader in the 21st century, we need to put about 15 to 20% for education. That is very critical. Number 2, universities must be retooled and reskilled for training in technology and sciences. Third, university lecturers must be more motivated. And I like the fact that the president agreed for even providing soft loans for universities to meet their own personal needs. Unless we invest more in education, we're not likely to meet up with the demands of the 21st century and skill our students for a life of meaningfulness. Employment, like you said, living wage employment. You can only get that today if you are technology savvy.
Okay, you also identified vocational training the other time has been the backbone of some economies in the world. But in this part of the globe, we seem to look at vocational education or technical education as inferior. All of us are interested in going to the universities, whether you're going to study Yoruba or sociology or philosophy. You just want to acquire that paper certificate for you to be called a graduate and, of course, seek employment at the end of the day. Are we investing enough in vocational education when you look at China, South Korea, like you cited, even Togo, very close to us here?
In 2006 or 7, I consulted for the Educational Trust Fund, and their objective was to expand, the essence of technical vocational education across the country. And we actually went to China and South Africa to experience, technical vocational education in those countries. I mean, we came back and we set up a 3-year technical educational vocational conference at the Ladi Kwali Hall in Abuja. And it all went towards training the trainers. So we brought manufacturers of technical educational equipments into Nigeria to expose to our universities and polytechnics, and then got them involved in buying and then also in training the trainers. But that was not sustained. What we need really is a concerted effort to glamorize technical and vocational education. There must be a public enlightenment campaign to convince parents that 21st century is not becoming a lawyer and a doctor alone. It is about skills. It's about skill acquisition. And because a lot of parents are not convinced that a child has not studied accounting, law, economics, or doctor is not going to, let them realize that 21st century is different. You find a lot of people read law after law school and then come and start learning fashion designing, come and start learning cooking, and then they become caterers and fashion designers and make more money. So in reality, why did they go and wait 5, 6, 7 and millions of naira reading law? When there are no jobs, there are too many, there's a glut of lawyers. Okay, so I think government has to deliberately empower a global campaign of enlightenment to convince Nigerian parents that the new world order is technology-based and skills is the currency of employment.
But when you look at our attitude as well, if I'm meeting somebody, maybe a friend, or even meeting somebody like you, and I introduce myself as not being a graduate, but maybe a graduate of Academy technical college school or something, there is always this notion that, he's not properly educated, he's not properly...
That is what the campaign would do. A campaign is a strategy, propaganda, to change the mindset of people. If people have been focused on a particular concept, that either you're a lawyer, an accountant, or a doctor, you have not succeeded, their mindset has to be changed. And that can be done by campaign, and to encourage our parents to see that this century, what is critical is your skills and your experience, is what you're able to do. Either you're a mechanic or a tailor. If you look at a survey of our emerging SMEs, they're in those skill centers. Okay, so the reality is that government at every level, subnational, federal, even local government, must design public enlightenment strategy to enlighten people about the realities of the 21st century and the things that are required, and then what children needs to have to be able to get a sustainable living wage job in the 21st century and also become successful entrepreneurs.
Okay, but what are the likely challenges that we are likely to face as a country if we do not change our path of reasoning?
Well, we're already experiencing the challenges. Unemployment. 8 out of 10 graduates don't have jobs. And when they stay home for 5 years without job, they become armed robbers, they become kidnappers, all kinds of issues because they have to survive. So the reality is that it's not the number of guns or military or policemen that matters. It is strategy. And the strategy must start from the fact, what is the component of the 21st century? It's technology-based. How do we begin to change and retool our institutions to train more of such people, even for our own national economic development? I mentioned the oil and gas industry, where we have no underwater engineers. We have to bring them from abroad. So in reality, all levels of government and even private sector must focus on redirecting the mind of Nigerians to the fact that this century requires technicians, skills, okay, rather than philosophers.
Okay, so how should we tackle the problem? Should it be from the local government to state?
I mentioned all level. Nigeria is the federal system, so it's not only the federal government, the state governments the local governments. Now they have even funds directly. Let them spend some part of that money on public enlightenment. Even simple things like road. I mean, look at the way people drive on the streets of Lagos. I mean, when we were growing up, there were cartoon programs on television that enlighten you, say you drive on the left if you're moving fast, you stay on the right if you're moving slow. Today, guys moving slowly on the left, if you hoot at them to move, they will tell you to fly because they were not educated. So government knows, I mean, LTV, public enlightenment is critical, even for government's program. So people speak out of ignorance, people drive out of ignorance, people go to school out of ignorance, because the institutions that are meant to enlighten the public are probably not funded enough to do the same. So without information, we will all be going in different directions. Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about the investment, the need for us to invest on AI, technology to advance the cause of this country. In other climes, when you go to their primary, secondary schools, you see their pupils or students interacting with gadgets, but it's not the same here. When you go to some of our public schools, they are disasters. So how do we intend to catch up with the future if you are not catching them young?
But I think you need to bring the Minister of Education to this program. He probably has a plan that I don't know about. But I mean, the state of our educational infrastructure is shameful. I mean, you're talking of computers. Is it in buildings where there are no roofs, or where there's no electricity? So Nigeria's problem is multifaceted. Even this technology jump that I'm talking about, without adequate electricity, we're not going to be able to achieve it, or solar. So there's a need to, I mean, I've always said it that many times, government needs to, from time to time, sit with private sector and just engage on issues, because they deal with this every day. They're the largest employers. They employ more than people. I mean, they know what is going on, and they have the capacity to assist government in defining and finding a way out of solution. Maybe the governments do. Maybe those decisions are not implemented, but education is at a stage where there's a need for a Marshall Plan. An emergency must be declared in our educational system. So we're not only talking about infrastructure, we're talking about teacher training, we're talking about teachers' motivation and upkeep. We're not talking of tools and then electricity. So there's a lot to do. I think if I had a few minutes with Mr. President, I'm going to be telling him, please, sir, let's declare a state of emergency on education and bring the private sector together with the minister and to find a way, a 5-year plan. I mean, Central Bank gave, Junita Buhari gave farmers billions of naira to do farming. So why can't we just set up a special fund in Central Bank to look at education and revive all our schools, put generators and solars on them, tool them, empower, I mean, teachers can have staff quota. I was in China, like I said, with the ETF delegation. We went to a town outside Shanghai called Sanzu, I can't remember, and it was like a Ikeja, but only factories.
Wow. Instead of churches.
Be careful.
Or mosque.
Be careful. Only factories. And we went to a company called Founders Technology. They are producers for Dell and all the rest of it. For the first-year students of a nearby university, we are coupling computers. So if children, Part 1 students are building computers, the computer is already in their brain. So that's a deliberate decision of the Chinese government. So I sincerely believe that the Minister of Education needs to convocate a national emergency summit on education and bring private sector partners and funders to sit together. Even, I mean, there are factories, business in this country that can't get the kind of staff they require. That is a disincentive for foreign direct investment. Because what attracts investors is that you also have capable, technology-enabled manpower. So you can see the relationship between lack of educational revamping and infrastructure and even the foreign direct investment that we're talking about. So it's at the foundation of everything, and we need to take a look at it.
I'm sure that China that you cited just now didn't get there just in a day. It must have taken them years of research to have come up with such a policy.
Deliberate policy. They knew that education, and we all know that, education is the foundation of everything, of any society, not either formal or informal, or technical. There's a need to ensure that investment in education, like health, is non-compromisable. Because if those two things are shaky, every other thing will be shaky.
Okay, now that you have profiled some solutions to this problem, the willingness to embrace some of the ideas that you suggested is not always there. We are always very quick to write papers, but implementation is always the problem.
Honestly, I don't know. Because when you look at some of the quality of our ministers, first-class minds, I think the civil service structure itself may be too. And when you look at the education system, you have Nigerian Teachers Institute, you have of NUC. There are many parastatals under that ministry.
Duplication.
Maybe duplication, maybe too many voices. Like I said. But what I know is that to scale up our educational system from where it is to where the 21st century requires it to be, there must be an emergency declared on education. And maybe the minister will be advised, if I meet him, so I'll tell him, please convocate a national emergency meeting on education. And not just ministries or governors alone, bring private sector practitioners, industrialists. They are the employers of labor. Okay, even bring the students. Let's have a conversation. And whatever comes out of it, let us seek government support for a special intervention fund for education. Okay? Because it's not going to be enough from the budgets and the allocations because of the challenge of other areas of the economy. But if education, just like we did for rice and rice farmers, can we do the same thing for education?
Okay, so for those young ones who are watching us right now, still thinking about what to go and study in the university, what will be your advice for them so that at the end of the day, it won't just be wasted years of studying philosophy or sociology in the university?
One other critical element of the 21st century is the fact that you will need more than just your university education, either in science or arts, to survive in the 21st century.
It's technology.
So it means parents must start to teach their children the concept of thank you and please. Is the foundation of prosperity. A lot of children growing up these days don't have manners. And no matter your level of education, if you can't say thank you and please, you're not going anywhere in this country. Society is a very cultural society. Humility is important. Okay? So that's number one. Number two, you need to also look at your pedigree and natural talents. Pedigree talents will be those talents that you inherited from your parents. My mother was a caterer. So I know how to roll meat pies and Scotch eggs, even though I've not set up my fast food business yet. And many of us have things we learned from our parents. We need to make them economic centers. The same thing with our natural talents. Because even the income from your core competence cannot survive you in the 21st century. So we all have to move from core competence to multiple competences. So it means even as a broadcaster, you should be teaching somewhere over the weekend. You should have a farm. So you have multiple sources of income, and then that is where you can have comfort in the 21st century.
All right, interesting conversation with Prince Dapo Adelegan, former president, Nigeria British Chamber of Commerce, on the problem of degrees without jobs, causes and solutions. And of course, he's been able to advise parents as well as government and of course other key players in the education sector on the need for us to retweak our direction in terms of educational policy and invest more in technology if indeed we want to catch up with those developing countries. We thank you very much for your time.
Always a pleasure.
Okay, we'll take a very quick break. When we come back, the other leg of our conversation with Joy and Adebimpe will be at the front burner. Stay with us.